After the retreat of Yansheng base, Xiao Honglian called Wei Dinghai. Xiao said, "Where are you?" Wei Dinghai said on the other end of the phone, "Oh, we will be there in a while. Have you arrived?" Xiao Honglian curled her lips. "Not yet. We have a long way to go, and we should be the last to arrive, but it won't delay the agreed time." Wei Dinghai smiled and said, "Hey, I thought you were already there. I was going to ask about the situation over there." Xiao Honglian also smiled and said, "What a coincidence. We both thought of the same thing." "Well, let's talk about it when we meet." After the two hung up the phone, they thought at the same time, "You should go over and taste the sniper's bullet." In Zhang Yi's sight, after the two convoys came, he killed some people and ran away. "Only so few people died? Why are you running? Are you trying to play some tricks again?" But Zhang Yi also understands that they are not fools. After suffering losses, they will definitely choose other routes and no longer give Zhang Yi the opportunity to snipe. But this is not important. As long as they launch an attack from the front of the shelter, they will definitely be within Zhang Yi's shooting range. I want everyone to know that all the miscellaneous soldiers on the battlefield today are contracted by me. Zhang Yi showed an evil smile at the corner of his mouth. The others were speechless. Fatty Shu hurriedly shouted, "Boss, if you have a chance to kill the mutants, you should kill them first. After all, we are on the front line. Relieve us of some pressure." When it comes to the end, the mutants are the most difficult to deal with. Zhang Yi said lightly, "Oh, I'll try my best, but you'd better not hold too high hopes." For the mutants who can survive to this day, especially the enhanced and orc mutants, the effect of firearms is already very low. You also know that my strength will only double against opponents marked by me as weak. But when I think the opponent is stronger, I will automatically become invisible. Zhang Yi never exaggerates his strength to make his opponents despise him and his teammates not to rely too much on him. Zhang Yi looked into the distance through the tactical eyepiece, and there was a dead silence in his vision. It was filled with a sense of déjà vu that a storm was about to come. He whispered, "I have deliberately let the other side discover my ability to rebound attacks so that they will be afraid of using large firearms. In this way, the first line of defense can last longer. After all, it is difficult to break through the 10-meter-thick ice and snow wall without using large firearms." Zhang Yi's dimensional door has a limited area. It is essentially a door opened in space, so it is not easy to move. Therefore, it is impossible to use it to block the entire defense line that is thousands of meters long. And Zhang Yi showed this skill in advance as a deterrent. It can maximize its role. "Who will be the next batch of people coming?" Zhang Yi muttered to himself while holding a big gun. The snow worship cult, or the Qingpei base, is ostensibly the object of his cooperation this time. But if he doesn't take action, he may miss a great sniper opportunity. But soon, Zhang Yi's concerns disappeared completely, because he saw a large number of snow worship cult followers coming on foot from the snowy plain in the distance. They were densely packed. There were thousands of them. I won't waste bullets on them. Zhang Yi shook his head. He should have thought that the snow worship sect was driving its devout believers here to die. Following Chaoyu base and Yangsheng base, people from the snow worship sect also arrived near the battlefield. Compared to the other three companies, their advantage lies in their strength in numbers. Although the combat effectiveness of those believers is not high, due to the brainwashing of the snow worship cult, they are not afraid of death. Some people even firmly believe that as long as they die for the holy war, their souls can go to the kingdom of God full of flowers and delicious food. But this time, there were even more than 1,000 believers led by Zhang Yixian, the high priest of the snow worship sect. They were the closest to Manor, but since there was no transportation, they arrived at the latest. Zhang Yi did not choose to attack them at the first time. First of all, there is no point in killing these ordinary believers. Secondly, both parties had an unreliable agreement that they would become Zhang Yi's helpers when necessary. Zhang Yi reminded everyone in the communication channel. The people who worship the snow cult are also here. Now, except for the Qingpei base, the other three are all here. But Uncle Yu asked rationally, "Didn't I say before that the people from the Snow Worship sect and the Qingpei base are helpers? If they also launch a charge at that time, will we kill them?" Zhang Yi replied, "As long as they get close to the defense line, then kill without mercy." Once Zhang Yi and the others show signs of decline, those guys will immediately join in the attack on the shelter. So there is no need to be too polite to them. "Okay, I understand. It's much easier this way." Uncle Yu's expression became much more relaxed. He lowered his head and lifted up an oilcloth in front of him. Underneath was a large amount of ammunition and 2 Gatling cannons. This large-caliber machine gun can penetrate armored vehicles. If used to hit someone, it only takes 1 bullet to turn them into powder. After the people who worshipped the snow cult arrived at their destination, they found no one from other forces coming, and they also noticed something strange. They immediately contacted several other forces. Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai wished they could kill more people in order to consume the shelter's defense power. So the two of them pretended that they hadn't arrived yet and asked Zhang Yixian to wait near Yunke Manor first. Zhang Yixian noticed something was wrong. However, he just perfunctorily did not move forward. Because they came here to take advantage of the situation, but they had no intention of really risking their lives with Zhang Yi. If Zhang Yi and the others can block a few waves of attacks and consume the strength of the other 3 families, we will give them a hard blow from behind. If Zhang Yi cannot block their attacks, then we will have to break our promise and join in, to plunder them. Not long after they arrived near the shelter, people from the Green Creeper base also arrived. Their means of transportation are equally backward, but they raise a large number of majestic sled dogs. The leader Xing Tian and his daughter Zhou Lingling rode huge mutant demon wolf, followed by more than 500 strong men wearing white combat uniforms with strong auras. Xing Tian picked up the telescope from a distance and stared at the shelter. He said to his subordinates, "Without my order, no one is allowed to launch an attack on Zhang Yi's shelter at will. Today, we are mainly here to watch the show." The 4 forces arrived one after another, and also arrived at the place they had agreed upon. Time to attack. As the initiator of this encirclement, Xiao Honglian opened a multi-person call and called the heads of the other 3 forces over. "Xiao Honglian, everyone is already nearby, right? Then according to our original plan, we will attack the shelter from 4 directions." Xing Tian immediately said, "We plan to sneak attack from behind the shelter." Wei Dinghai was confused. He said, "The shelter is backed by a low mountain. Do you want to climb over it?" Although the mountain range is not high, only about 100 meters high, it is difficult to climb over it in the wind and snow. Not to mention launching an offensive from a condescending position. Xing Tian. Thought, "I came here to watch the show. If you go around to the back, you won't notice that I am fishing." Xing Tian said, "It's precisely because of this that we can catch them by surprise. I'll leave the front to you, and we'll go to the back to fight." Naturally, the others didn't have any objections, and even if they did, it might not be effective. After all, the 4 families are fighting on their own, and no one can command others. Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai could never have imagined that Xing Tian had secretly made an agreement with Zhang Yi. After all, in their view, this was a campaign where they had no chance of failure. Wei Dinghai said, "Well, let the 3 of us handle the frontal attack." Xiao Honglian suddenly said, "By the way, when we came here, we found that they had a very strong sniper, so you'd better be careful. In addition, there are mutants among them who can rebound artillery attacks. So when using large firearms, it's best to think carefully. Otherwise, it will only cause harm to ourselves." Wei Dinghai also said, "Oh, I also want to remind everyone about this. We have also suffered a lot in this regard." The 2 thought that the Snow Worship sect and the Qingpu base had also been sniped by Zhang Yi. They said it at this time to avoid affecting themselves in the melee. "Well, I know." Xing Tian and Zhang Yixian's reactions were relatively ordinary. They came here to play around so they would not really fight. At most, they would watch the fire from the other side of the river and bluff. However, when they learned that Zhang Yi had an extremely rare space-related ability and could rebound attacks from flying weapons, they couldn't help but be a little surprised. Because that means that they have a way to use their heavy firearms inside the gate. Otherwise, with their number of people, if the cannons are bounced back, I don't know how many people will die. Well, let's agree on a time. 2:30, we will launch an attack from 4 directions. Yang Sheng and the people from Chaoyu Base chose to approach Yunke Manor from the direction of Shujia Town. There are few shelters around Yunke Manor, and in order to deal with Zhang Yi's sniping methods, they thought of a way during the rest process. Without exception, the heavy tanks with the strongest defense, the models with thick steel plates installed, are at the front, and other cars with weaker defense follow closely behind. In this way, they can prevent being consumed by Zhang Yi at a long distance. And in the process of advancing, they use snow fog or smoke bombs to interfere with Zhang Yi's sight. Because they are afraid of Zhang Yi's special rebound ability, they can't use artillery to attack the defense line from a distance and can only break through close. When Zhang Yi found all this, he was not in a hurry, because he had expected this kind of development. The other party is not a fool. It is impossible for him to rush up and let him shoot one by one. However, if the other party wants to attack, he will definitely get out of the car. At that time, someone will still have to be exposed to his gun. There is no need to rush. Good hunters need to have good patience. But at this time, Yang Xinxin's voice rang in Zhang Yi's ears. "Brother Zhang Yi, there are enemies in the direction of the back mountain." Zhang Yi's eyes condensed. Yang Xinxin sat in the control room and could use surveillance to transmit information to everyone. She transmitted the image of the back mountain to Zhang Yi. After Zhang Yi saw the shadowy people in the back mountain, he felt relieved. It turned out to be them. You don't have to worry about these guys. They probably plan to run over to catch fish. Xing Tian's intentions were clear when he appeared here. They were just here to fish. Zhang Yi was not particularly worried about Xing Tian and others appearing in the back mountain. When building the defense line, he had already considered the issue of the back mountain. The place was easy to defend, but difficult to attack, and he had planted many trigger mines on the mountainside. If you make an emergency landing from that place, there is no good way to clear the mines, and you will have to be blown up alive. "The enemy has appeared in front. Prepare to fight," Zhang Yi shouted in a deep voice on the communication channel. Everyone in the shelter was extremely focused at this time. "This battle can determine life and death." The tanks from Yang Sheng and Chao Yu's base were already advancing towards the outer perimeter of the shelter. All the soldiers were fully armed, wearing combat uniforms and holding modern weapons and equipment in their hands. It could be said that they were armed to the teeth. There are powerful strangers secretly ready to take action at any time. No matter how they look at it, they all feel that they will win this battle. The followers of the snow worship sect approached from the other direction step by step with primitive weapons such as firearms and even broadswords and spears. The distance was getting closer and closer. When the front row of tanks reached 300 meters away from the defense line, Zhang Yi suddenly shouted, "Do it!" At the console, Yang Xinxin decisively pressed the button in her hand. Facing the direction of Yangsheng Base and Chaoyu Base, cracks suddenly appeared on the snow wall, and the ice was pushed open by huge gun barrels and muzzles. Suddenly, the deafening sound of gunfire resounded throughout the entire front line. Even vehicles loaded with heavy armor couldn't withstand the bombardment of large caliber, artillery and tank main guns, and were sent flying backwards, slamming into the cars behind them. Boom! The deafening explosion shocked all the forces. Artillery, tanks, and machine guns. My God, where did they get these weapons? Zhang Yixian was dumbfounded. Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai were also shocked and couldn't believe their eyes. These heavy firearms were only possessed by the Xishan base in the entire Tianhai city. Could it be that they looted the weapons depot of the Xishan base? How did they do that? The firepower of the Xishan base is the best in the entire Tianhai city. However, Since heavy firearms are difficult to transport, it is difficult to really apply them on the battlefield. However, today, they became the first group of people to test the artillery, disperse immediately, and fight back. At this moment, they had no time to be shocked. Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai hurriedly ordered their men to disperse and fight back. But they were caught off guard by the first wave. Many people were beaten to pieces and the tanks were blown up. This line of defense is just an ice wall. We can kill it by smashing it. As long as we can get close to the shelter, we will win, Xiao Honglian said with a cold look. Although she was caught off guard, she was not panicked. Because Wu Huairen told her that this shelter did not have a weapon system, but just a solid shell. So they only needed to break the outer defense line, and their chances of winning would be infinite. The soldiers on the tanks were afraid of being wiped out, so they quickly jumped off the car with their weapons. But as soon as they left the tanks, they immediately became Zhang Yi's target. Zhang Yi stood calmly in the attic, using the dimensional gate to protect the window, and then began to snipe. On average, he kills an ordinary soldier every 3 seconds. As for the Yangsheng base and the Chaoyu base, since they did not predict that Zhang Yi had a large number of heavy weapons, the losses were also extremely painful. Their modified tanks could not withstand the attack of artillery fire. Even the artillery carried on the car for siege was destroyed directly on the trailer before it could be dragged down. On the back mountain, Xing Tian, who had planned to watch from the sidelines, could not help swallowing his saliva. I have been wondering why Zhang Yi dared to confront so many forces at the same time. It turns out that he has such a hand. He was secretly glad that he had run to the back of the shelter to fish. But he still said to his men, "Brothers, shoot! Make a bigger noise, but be careful not to shoot at people." A bald man next to him scratched his head. "Boss, there is no one around here." Xing Tian slapped him on the head. "Just shoot when I tell you to. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Anyway, don't hurt anyone." "I, Xing Tian, am a man of steel. I keep my word. We have to do our best when we take someone's things. Unless Zhang Yi is defeated, I will never kick someone when they are down." So dense gunfire was heard from the back mountain. Those who didn't know would think that they were launching an emergency attack. But on the front line, the fighting was really fierce. The 2 major bases were caught off guard by Zhang Yi and suffered heavy casualties for a while. Zheng Yixian was worried that he would be suspected if he didn't take action, so he directly ordered a group of believers to attack the defense line. Hundreds of believers immediately rushed towards the defense line with all kinds of cold weapons and simple firearms, howling. In front of the shelter was a flat open space, and there was no cover at all. They rushed over, and before they got 100 meters close to the defense line, they were shot into a sieve by the bang, bang, bang of machine guns. Zheng Yixian frowned. He didn't expect Zhang Yi to be so cruel and didn't give him any face. But considering that he had to act in full, he had to suppress his emotions. "We can't go down like this. We underestimated the firepower configuration of this shelter." Xiao Honglian gritted her teeth, looking at the many soldiers around her who were killed in the explosion, and began to regret it. If they had known that Zhang Yi had such strong firepower, they would have been more fully prepared. But who would have thought that a team temporarily formed by a warehouse manager in the end times actually had the firepower that only militarized troops could have? At this moment, Wei Dinghai's voice came to her ears. "We must work together to break through this outer line of defense." Most of their firepower should be here, and they are short of manpower. As long as they break through the defense line, they will be at a comprehensive disadvantage. "You cover me with your firepower, and I will solve it." Xiao Honglian immediately said, "Okay, Wei Dinghai's Ice and Snow Lord can produce miraculous effects at this time." She immediately ordered everyone, "Carry out fire suppression and cooperate with Chaoyu base to attack the Ice and Snow defense line." The Snow Worship Cult and Qingpu base also received their request. Zheng Yixian, with a cold face, continued to ask his followers to die. Xing Tian just laughed and told everyone to point their guns at the sky and shoot. On the position of Chao Yu base, Wei Dinghai was covered with a layer of crystal ice and snow armor, and then the whole person slowly merged into the ice and snow on the earth like mercury. On the outer defense line of the shelter, guns and cannons were still spewing flames, wantonly slaughtering the three forces in front. But suddenly something strange happened. Without any signs, a wall of ice and snow exploded with a bang. Sharp blocks of snow flew around like flying knives, and a cannon behind it was directly overturned. Zhang Yi and others also noticed the changes here. There was no sign. How could it suddenly be like this? Between the flying ice and snow, Zhang Yi saw a figure covered with thick ice and snow armor. Wei Dinghai had a hint of sarcasm on the corner of his mouth. "In the world of ice and snow, I am the king. Machine guns and artillery can be used against ordinary people, but it is meaningless to use them against a powerful ice and snow mutant like him." Due to the distance, Zhang Yi could not use his divine power. However, after Wei Dinghai opened a gap in the defense line, the coalition forces were already excited and rushed over here with a roar. In a short while, thousands of soldiers crossed the ice and snow defense line and rushed into the shelter. Wei Dinghai continued to attack. After pressing his right hand on the wall, his supernatural power was activated, and the huge ice and snow barrier was like paper, and it exploded. The steel and iron bones in the middle lost their support and fell down. Even Zhang Yi couldn't help shrinking his pupils when he saw this ability. Wei Dinghai's ability is many times stronger than that of Fatty Shu. "Let's start," Zhang Yi said to everyone calmly. He was not surprised that the defense line would be breached. After all, it was just a barrier made of ice and snow, and it was not able to withstand all attacks. He just didn't expect that the other party would have such a powerful ice and snow ability mutant, tearing his barrier apart like tearing wallpaper. However, he was not unprepared. After the defense line, the second line of defense was Uncle Yu and Liang Yue and others. Wei Dinghai laughed and destroyed the ice and snow defense line with ease, and soon tore a huge hole. But at this moment, a cold, murderous intent locked on him. Wei Dinghai's eyes condensed, and a cold light flashed behind him. The thick frost armor on Wei Dinghai's neck shattered, and blue ice crystals flew. Wei Dinghai rolled on the ground without caring about his image and avoided the fatal blow. He saw the image of the person coming clearly. It was a woman holding a narrow and long sword with murderous eyes. "You can actually chop my frost armor into pieces." Wei Dinghai couldn't help but be alert. His frost armor is made of ice crystals, and its defense is comparable to that of high-grade synthetic metals. He didn't expect that his neck was almost chopped off just now. Wei Dinghai didn't plan to continue fighting, and he instantly merged into the ice and snow underground. In the ice and snow environment, his combat power is the strongest. Liang Yue frowned and shouted, "Fatty Shu!" At this time, Fatty Shu also arrived. Fatty Shu didn't expect that he would meet another mutant of the ice and snow system, and it seemed that Wei Dinghai was much more powerful than him. Fatty Shu didn't say anything and directly lifted up a large piece of snow on the ground. The snow layer around the shelter is relatively thin, which is related to the terrain and the previous long-term battle. So Fatty Shu easily lifted up large pieces of ice and snow. Wei Dinghai, who was hiding in the ice and snow, saw that the situation was not good and could only run out from it. As soon as Wei Dinghai appeared, she slashed at his body with a knife full of murderous intent, the knife directly shattering the light blue ice armor on his chest. Wei Dinghai only felt a pain in his chest, and a bloodline appeared on his chest, and bright red blood seeped out. Wei Dinghai endured the severe pain and quickly used his supernatural power to condense the ice armor again to cover his chest, temporarily curbing the wound. He didn't expect that there would be such a powerful master in close combat in Zhang Yi's shelter. But his goal has been achieved, that is, to tear open a hole in the defense line. Liang Yue drew her knife and wanted to attack, but Wei Dinghai retreated from the gap very tactfully. When Liang Yue wanted to chase him, there appeared in front of her a dense crowd of countless base soldiers holding weapons and killing them. Bullets poured down like a torrential rain. Liang Yue took a deep breath, and then she resolutely drew her knife and rushed towards the dense crowd. Fatty Shu was shocked when he saw this scene. "Teacher Liang, don't be impulsive." Zhang Yi said to them, "Just hold the gap. Let her go." Liang Yue needed to vent, and only by letting her kill well could she release her pressure. She chose the road herself, and Zhang Yi had no reason to stop her. "The big one is still behind. You all be careful. Their mutants are coming too." At this point in the battle, the influence of ordinary people has become smaller and smaller, and mutants are the most difficult. Sure enough, after the defense line was broken, a loophole appeared in the firepower network, and the pressure on the coalition forces was immediately relieved. Xiao Honglian jumped onto the front of an armored vehicle, picked up the wine pot and poured a large mouthful of high-purity alcohol into her mouth, then opened her mouth and spit out a long dragon of fire at the ice and snow defense line. The solid ice and snow defense line melted instantly. The firearms inside were also affected and could no longer exert their due power. The morale of the coalition forces was high for a while, and they rushed forward with a roar. Their vision was wide, and they could clearly see that there was nothing behind the ice and snow defense line, with only a shelter standing behind it. "Victory is just around the corner! Charge!" Mad Wolf Lucian howled excitedly, then used all four limbs to rush towards the gap in the defense line like a whirlwind. But at this moment, the defense line was covered with heavy snow, and Fatty Shu summoned the vast snow to form an obstacle at the gap. The giant cat stood in front of the gap, looking at the soldiers attacking this side, opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar. Hundreds of soldiers were shocked that their eardrums hurt, and some even had blood flowing from their ears. They were dizzy and temporarily lost consciousness. Heavy footsteps were heard. Uncle Yu turned into a 2-meter-tall giant, naked to the upper body, wrapped in bullet belts all over his body and carrying 2 Gatling guns in his hands to block the gap. Uncle Yu roared and then pulled the trigger tightly. The coalition forces, whose vision was blocked by the wind and snow, were still anxiously looking for the direction and saw tongues of fire piercing through the snow and fog and at the same time shattering the bodies of soldiers one after another. The air was filled with blood-colored mist, which was the body shattered by high-energy bullets. The coalition forces fell like wheat being cut. Although their combat uniforms were very bulletproof, it was impossible to withstand the bombardment of Gatling cannons at a distance of several hundred meters. On another battlefield, Liang Yue was already killing like crazy. Her superpowers were very simple, and similar to Ling Feng's strengthening abilities, she could improve her overall physical abilities. Speed, strength, reaction, and even intuition. But Liang Yue's talent was too high. As a martial arts master, she was even more powerful after getting these superpowers. She was crisscrossing the battlefield, and all bullets avoided her. Every time she slashed, a soldier would die. And Liang Yue's goal was also very clear. It was the leader of the Yangsheng base, Xiao Honglian, who was standing high up and burning with flames all over his body. When enemies meet, they are extremely jealous. Liang Yue was about to kill him with a knife. But a sharp, cold light attacked her neck from the side. Long Sword blocked the fatal blow. The Mad Wolf. Liu Xian stopped not far from Liang Yue, staring at her with the eyes of examining prey. "Isn't it inappropriate to chop my people like vegetables?" As a commander, she didn't have any extra thoughts on a soldier. Liang Yue's pupils showed a strange blood color, and at this time she was shrouded in a strange aura. It was a terrifying look that Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and others had never seen before. Liu Xian also noticed the extraordinary of this enemy. He stretched out his scarlet tongue and sneered, "Interesting." He leaned down and his body began to slowly grow larger, and his sharp claws and teeth were stretched out a lot, like a sharp, long knife. Liang Yu's eyes never left Liu Xian. She slowly sheathed her long sword and bent down. As a top martial arts expert, She is proficient in martial arts from various countries. II slash is also the most skillful and sure-kill move in her swordsmanship. A bloodthirsty frenzy flashed across Liu Xian's pupils. He roared, and his figure suddenly became illusory. His body passed through the air, leaving a residual image. No one could see his movements clearly. The mutant of the orc system will gain the ability to transform into animals in terms of physique. Mad Wolf Liu Xian, his transformation into a gray wolf has a terrible assault speed and impact. He can even stop the bullets of a sniper rifle. A gust of wind swept across the battlefield, and Liang Yu's eyes could not catch Liu Xian's figure. In this situation, she actually chose to slowly close her eyes. 10 knife lights flashed in the air, and Liu Xian's iron claws pierced her soft and white neck from the back. At the moment when the iron claws were about to pierce the skin, Liang Yue's knife was pulled out like lightning. One knife cut off Liu Xian's arms, and another knife cut across his neck. Liu Xian's body still maintained a forward posture, brushing against Liang Yue. But his body ran a long way on the ground before his head and arms slowly fell to the ground. On the gap side, the battle also entered a white-hot stage. Flower, Fatty Shu, and Uncle Yu tried their best to defend and killed countless soldiers. But after the mutants from the three forces joined, the battle situation changed instantly. There were many masters in Chaoyu Base and Yangsheng Base. After breaking through the defense line, it was time for the mutants to play. Wei Dinghai was injured and retreated temporarily. But 5 more mutants came to kill. Uncle Yu was still carrying 2 Gatling guns to kill ordinary soldiers. A white shadow flashed by his side. The next moment, Wei Dinghai's deputy Chen Jingguan appeared on Uncle Yu's body. He was like a boneless snake, directly wrapped around Uncle Yu's torso, and then began to strangle him. Uncle Yu was startled, and then he began to burst out his strength, trying to break free from Chen Jingguan. Chen Jingguan said coldly, "Even sniper rifles can't penetrate my body. Do you still want to break free?" He was like a big white python, tightly wrapped around Uncle Yu and then tightened inside. Although Uncle Yu was very strong, Chen Jingguan's ability was Rubber Man, which was the most restrained tank of this power. Fortunately, after seeing this scene, Flower roared directly at Chen Jingguan's head. Flower's roar shocked Chen Jingguan's head and almost lost consciousness. Uncle Yu had a strong resistance. After feeling that Chen Jingguan's restraint was gone, he immediately pulled him off his body. Uncle Yu pulled hard for a few times, but this person was like a sticky candy and he couldn't pull it apart no matter how hard he pulled. At the same time, other mutants rushed over to besiege them again. Zhang Yi frowned slightly. He knew that it was meaningless to hold on any longer. He didn't want Uncle Yu and others to die. After all, he had few friends. "Everyone retreat. Go back to the shelter. Liang Yue, you too. You can't get revenge by yourself. Be rational." After receiving Zhang Yi's order, everyone immediately chose to fight and retreat. As for Liang Yue, she looked at the dog's head in her hand, and a strange color flashed in her eyes. Then she wiped the blood off her face expressionlessly and chose to obey Zhang Yi's call and return to the shelter. After all, killing for a long time, her superpowers were consumed very much. If it weren't for the food made by Yang Mi, she would not be able to hold on until now. But this time, she gained a lot. It's meaningless to fight anymore. She can't get close to the commander of Yangsheng Base. Liang Yue returned to the defense line, and Zhang Yi was relieved when he saw her. Fortunately, she didn't make a fool of herself and really ran over to die. The crowd fought and retreated at the same time. With the cover of Zhang Yi's sniper rifle and the Dimension Gate, they successfully retreated to the entrance of the shelter. Zhang Yi let them enter the shelter, but his eyes were looking at the Snow Worship sect members, who were still working but not working hard in the distance. Still watching? Zhang Yi decided to punish them a little to let them know that watching a show is not so good. Jingxin, aim all the remaining firepower at the Snow Worship sect and fire around. The defense line in the direction of the Snow Worship sect was not seriously damaged. First, the Snow Worship sect did not attack with all their strength, and second, Zhang Yi did not really kill them at the beginning. But now they are still watching. Zhang Yi will not be polite. He will not allow anyone to pick the fruit. Yang Xinshin said, "Understood." She flexibly tapped on the keyboard with her 10 fingers, and soon the firepower network in the direction of the snow worship sect was also activated. Zhang Yixian originally planned to continue waiting for the right time and then wait for the price. Whoever wins, they will help. However, the sudden gunfire attack caused heavy casualties to these snow worshippers who lacked defensive equipment. Zhang Yi, you... Zhang Yixian quickly retreated to the rear of the team, angry at Zhang Yi's attack on them. But he also understood that Zhang Yi was angry at their delay in taking action. At this time, Zhang Yi's people retreated to the shelter, and the soldiers from the Chaoyu and Yangsheng bases rushed over with a howl, all gathered in the space in front of the shelter. Zhang Yixian took a deep breath. It's almost time to take action. It would not be good for them if Zhang Yi lost. The major base organizations are their most hated enemies. He immediately ordered a group of snow worshippers to come out and head towards the shelter. At this time, the shelter was surrounded. Someone threw smoke bombs around the shelter, which greatly interfered with Zhang Yi's sniping method. Zhang Yi did not turn on the infrared function to prevent the other party from using grenades and other explosives to hurt his eyes. Liang Yue and others looked at the densely packed soldiers outside and were very nervous. Uncle Yu asked Zhang Yi for his opinion. "Zhang Yi, what should we do now? Should we abandon the 2-story building on the surface and hide underground? Why are you in such a hurry? The defensive capabilities of the shelter are not so easy to break." Zhang Yi just finished speaking when he heard a rumbling sound. Then he saw through the smoke that the crowd in the distance was dispersing, and a huge engineering vehicle was slowly driving over. Zhang Yi frowned, feeling something was wrong. Then he opened the dimensional gate and took out boxes of grenades and explosives from it. The dimensional door protected the window, and Zhang Yi began to throw these grenades and explosives out of the window. Before those people had time to be happy, there was a violent explosion in the crowd. 7 or 8 people were blown away, blood and limbs flew everywhere. And the grenades and explosives thrown out of the window did not stop. Zhang Yi, who had emptied the warehouse of the Xishan base, had never lacked weapons and ammunition. "You really think you can win if you break the first line of defense, right? How stupid!" Zhang Yi sneered and threw out a large bundle of explosives. "The shelter is my biggest reliance!" Explosions rang out one after another, and soon hundreds of people were killed. The remaining soldiers dodged in panic, frightened to death. But facing Zhang Yi's abnormal ability, they had no way to fight back. Some people tried, but in the end, all the ammunition shot into the dimensional gate fell on their own heads. The shockwave of the explosion dispersed the smoke, and Zhang Yi could see clearly at this time that the person driving the engineering vehicle looked familiar. After thinking carefully, he remembered that this person was Wu Huairen from Zhanlong Security Company. An old friend. I didn't expect them to have such a trick. No wonder they were so confident to attack my shelter. Zhang Yi's tone was a little unkind, and he immediately picked up a grenade and threw it over there. But the engineering vehicle was the top priority of this operation, and naturally it was also very well protected. Seeing Zhang Yi throwing the grenade, a figure suddenly flashed in the air, caught the grenade like brown paper, and then threw it aside. This is Chen Jingguan, the adjutant of Chaoyu Base. His ability is Rubber Man. As long as the kinetic energy does not exceed the threshold, he can catch almost all physical attacks. Wu Huairen took the opportunity to drive the engineering vehicle to the side of the shelter. A long mechanical arm stretched out from the engineering vehicle, then aimed at a certain position on the wall, sprayed out a thin blue flame and began to cut. Xiao Honglian calmly ordered, "Spread out, attack from the side, block his sight." Thick fog rose all around, covering the surroundings of the shelter. They had no way to counter Zhang Yi's sniping methods, but they had ways to limit them. Sure enough, this brought Zhang Yi great trouble. At this moment, Zhang Yi suddenly heard AI alarm. Warning: the wall of the shelter is continuously subjected to high-temperature cutting, and the degree of damage is 0.001%. Continuous cutting? Zhang Yi immediately realized what was happening. Wu Huairen can drive engineering vehicles to damage his shelter. This shelter was built by Wu Huairen's previous company. He knows very well where to start and where it is easier to cut a hole. How long will it take to break through? Zhang Yi asked calmly. AI replied, at the current speed, it will take 1 hour and 29 minutes to completely penetrate. Zhang Yi felt much more at ease. It takes so long to break through, and it may take a whole day to open a hole that allows people to enter. This day is enough for him to kill many people. He said that if these people really fight him, then it will be a fight to the death. Even if it is broken through, they can move underground. But these forces will also suffer heavy casualties. Zhang Yi simply ignored the engineering vehicle. He buried his head and used the sniper rifle and grenade in his hand to kill as many enemy forces as possible. The efficiency of sniping was also reduced a lot by the influence of smoke bombs, but as long as one hits, the opponent will definitely die. Uncle Yu and others were on the first floor. They couldn't see what was happening outside, but they could hear the cutting sound coming from the wall, and they couldn't help but worry. "Boss, are we retreating?" Fatty Shu asked worriedly. Zhang Yi said, "Don't worry, wait a little longer."